Joe Biden's strategy, apparently, is to, again, just pursue give-outs and handouts, no matter what that does for the broader body politic. So, in other words, concentrated benefits for particular groups that Joe Biden needs in order to win, and diffuse costs across the population, except sometimes those costs are not so diffuse. As, for example, in the case of a Maryland mother named Rachel Morin. According to CNN, a months-long investigation into the 2023 of a Maryland mother has led to the arrest of a 23-year-old man, according to local authorities. Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, a citizen of El Salvador, was arrested at a bar in Tulsa, Oklahoma, according to the Tulsa Police Department. The suspect lied about his true identity, denied any knowledge of the crimes for which he is wanted. When they ran his information, the authorities, they found he was wanted in connection with a in Maryland. He faces charges of first-degree and first-degree in that case. But as it turns out, he is suspected of multiple crimes since he illegally crossed the border into the United States in February 2023. One of those crimes is of Rachel Morin, who was killed along a hiking trail in Bel Air in August of 2023. Apparently, Rachel was not his first victim. And according to the police, this person fled to the United States illegally after committing a brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador a month earlier in January. So how exactly did this person get into the country? That has not been made clear at this point. Did he just show up at the border and claim asylum and they let him right in? Did he cross between points of entry? Unclear at this point. Alejandro Mayorkas of the Department of Homeland Security denied culpability in the of Rachel Morin. Here he was.
What do you say to critics who blame the administration for allowing something like this to happen? Yeah, obviously, this is something that you hear in right-wing media all the time.
Jim, first and foremost, of course, our hearts break for the children, the family, the loved ones, the friends of the individual who was the woman, the mother. Jim, a criminal is responsible for the criminal act. The criminal who committed this heinous act should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, and forcefully so. That is my response.
So his response is the criminal is responsible, yes, but who opened the door to the criminal, Alejandro? Who let him in the country? That's the entire question here, especially as Joe Biden now pursues a mass amnesty. As social unrest escalates and crime rates continue to climb, securing the safety of your family is more crucial than ever. In these uncertain times, having effective but non-lethal options is really, really important. Introducing the Byrna less lethal pistol launcher. Developed by a team of common-sense gun owners who understand the importance of having choices. They engineered the Byrna launcher as a powerful tool for self-defense, allowing users to de-escalate threatening situations without having to resort to deadly force. Now, I'm about as pro-Second Amendment as it gets. I own many, many guns. But honestly, the thought of using lethal force, even in defense of my home, that's a scary thing. Don't misunderstand me. If somebody invades my home, I'll do everything in my power to protect my family and take out the bad guy. But I'd rather be able to resort to non-lethal measures if I have that ability. There are emotional and psychological ramifications to using force. And it turns out that in today's culture, there might be legal ramifications to self-defense as well. For me, the Byrna is a safer, more sensible alternative that could potentially save lives on both sides, protecting both the user and the aggressor. For those who are adverse to owning a firearm, the Byrna is the optimal choice, delivering formidable stopping power without having to take a life. The Byrna is an indispensable tool to keep you and your family safe. It's legal in all 50 states, no background checks or permits required. They've received over 15,000 4.5-star reviews, hand-assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Byrna can ship directly to your door. The Byrna isn't just an option, it's an essential component for responsible, non-lethal protection. Visit Byrna.com/Ben for 10% off your purchase. That's BYRNA.com/Ben to check out the latest news about Byrna. That's BYRNA. According to the Wall Street Journal editorial board, cynicism, thy new name, is immigration politics. And President Biden is proving it again with his Tuesday announcement he will bestow legal status on the undocumented spouses and children of U.S. citizens. The order might be illegal. It could be reversed by a new president next year. It will further poison the immigration debate, but hey, any port in an election year storm. The plan offers a new path to citizenship for an estimated 500,000 migrants who entered the country illegally but are now married to U.S. citizens. The Department of Homeland Security says this will apply to anyone who has lived in the country for 10 years as of Monday, is married to an American, and poses no security or criminal threat. Some 50,000 children of these spouses will also be eligible for citizenship. So as the Wall Street Journal points out, this order is legally uncertain and might boomerang on spouses who apply for legal status. Biden is asserting an authority known as parole in place, which allows DHS to let illegal immigrants remain in the United States while they apply for citizenship. The statute specifies it can only be prescribed on a case-by-case basis for urgent humanitarian or significant public reasons. The administration says it allows blanket parole. So he is effectively now daring the Republicans to basically try to deport these people. That is the goal, according to Politico, like openly the goal of the Biden administration. This is all just bait. According to Politico, Joe Biden on Tuesday unveiled major new actions, but in issuing a new policy granting legal protections to undocumented spouses, the president was trying to lure Donald Trump into a very specific debate, too. Inside Biden's team, advisors are betting that the new policies unveiled at the White House on Tuesday will reignite a larger conversation about one of the most controversial chapters of the Trump era, the separation of families on the southern border. Now, as you recall, it was Barack Obama who originally put the kids in cages. It turns out that under the Flores settlement, families cannot be held together in custody. So children are generally released into the interior of the United States to a family member, maybe, we hope, and then the parents are kept in custody if they immigrate illegally. Now, Joe Biden is attempting to dare Trump to get into this. The problem for Joe Biden is I'm not sure this is a political winner. I mean, the reality is that most Americans are just not all that interested in Joe Biden's sympathy-first approach to illegal immigration. Joe Biden advisor Tom Perez, he says this immigration policy is incredibly smart. Of course.
What makes the White House confident that this plan is going to survive legal scrutiny and actually go into effect later this summer when so many other immigration plans from Trump, from Obama, have been struck down by the courts?
Well, I think it's the right thing to do. It's the legal thing to do, and it's the smart thing to do. What the president did 2 weeks ago was to secure the border, because we have to both secure the border and provide lawful pathways. That's what a balanced approach is all about.
Yeah, well, I mean, a balanced approach would involve closing the border, which is the thing that you are not, in fact, doing. You can tell how radical this program is by who is backing it. Pramila Jayapal, who's the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and a far-left radical, she says this is the biggest thing that we've seen in the United States since DACA. Not shockingly, DACA also happened to happen in the middle of the 2012 election.
This is huge. Talk about how President Biden got from that previous executive order, which a lot of immigration advocacy groups denounced, to this.
Yes, well, it is huge. It is the biggest thing that we have seen since DACA in terms of protections for people. 500,000 people, Joy. And these are folks who are married to U.S. citizens, have been here for at least 10 years, have U.S. citizen children in some cases, not in some cases. And to be able to say to them, President Biden is keeping your family together. He is making sure that you do not have to leave the country and go through some arcane process.
And maybe not be able to get back in.
And not even be able to get back in, which is why most people didn't do it, because they didn't have that guarantee.
Okay, so Joe Biden wants to engage in this conversation. I'm just telling you, that's not how this conversation is going to go. Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who's deeply involved with the Biden campaign, he was asked about the killing of Rachel Morin. And he says, well, yeah, it turns out that the migration crisis is really affecting Americans all the way across the spectrum, including in Democratic states.
When people think about the border crisis and they think that this is only impacting a handful of states, Harford County in our state, where this brutal happened, is 1,800 miles away from the border. And so when people think this is only impacting a few states, this is impacting every single one of us. This inaction that we continue to see to get any form of sensible immigration policy done is impacting all of us, because all of us in local jurisdictions deal with the consequences of this.
Again, that is a Democrat, and that's going to be the actual argument. The argument is going to be about Laken Riley, and it's going to be about Rachel Morin, and it is not going to be about the immigration status of people who are already living in the country and have been doing so for a very long time. Because it turns out the top of the heap for people's concerns about illegal immigration is first close the border and then decide who gets to stay and who gets to go. One of the things I notice whenever Joe Biden will roll out a proposal like this, he'll bring up a dreamer, some kid who was born in Mexico or something and arrived in the United States illegally at the age of 3 and then grew up and became a nurse. And the answer to that is, okay, that person can stay. But the person who's on welfare cannot. It turns out that the United States does have the single capacity to go through all the people who have illegally immigrated and decide whether they are of net benefit to the United States and its population or whether they are not. Senator Joni Ernst correctly points out that Joe Biden is rolling out the red carpet for...
Once again, President Biden has rolled out the red carpet for illegal migrants. So we're hearing the doublespeak again. Out of one side of his mouth, he's saying, look at me, I'm doing an executive order. We're going to control the border. And then on the other hand now, he's offering basically mass amnesty to hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants that are currently within the country.
Again, you're going to get more and more of these stories leading up to the election, because it turns out that when you let millions of people through the border unvetted, some of those people are going to be criminals. And when you hear the argument that illegal immigrants have a lower crime rate than kind of natural-born American citizens, the answer to that is, so what? What does that have to do with anything? And that's a stupid argument, because we are not saying that they have a natural right to be in the United States. We are saying there should be zero crimes from the people that we voluntarily allow to be in the United States. Are you tired of the lies and the twist of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.